Hello, good evening, and welcome to Tax Tip Tuesday. I am your host, Chastity Grady. I'm the owner of Grady Tax Plus, where I help service-based providers who are new in their business understand their business structure, taxes, and keep their finances organized so they can feel confident in knowing that they are saving both time and money. So every week on Tuesdays, we go live and we do Tax Tip Tuesday. And I realize I have not given you a recap for the month of June. So at the end of the month, I want to give you a recap of what we discussed for the month. So I'm going to start off with giving you a recap for June and then a recap for July. If you want to catch any of the previous lives I've done, then definitely click if you go to my name, Chastity Grady, under photos, there's a spot for videos, and you can see all the videos that I've done so far. We talk about business startup, we talk about taxes, and we talk about bookkeeping. So for the month of June, we talked a lot about business startup, okay? We talked a lot about business startup. And if you are new to business, then business startup is where you're gonna start. That's where you're going to talk about the formation of your business. I talked a lot in June about taking your business seriously, including filing an LLC or corporation or whatever is your preference. And the only reason why I recommended that is because if you are in certain states and if you want to use a certain business name, then you need to have that business name on paper. If you want to have a DBA, that's cool as well. DBA is an option, but you just want to take it. You want to take into account the pros and cons of what your business, the goals of your business and the outcomes you want to have for your business, and deciding what kind of paperwork you want to put your business on, whether a DBA, LLC, or whatever fits your specific needs. And just in general, I am giving you just general guidance. If you need to have a consult, definitely consult with your tax professional or hire me as yours, okay? So again, in June, we talked about business startup. I told you about stop playing with your business name. In certain states, you cannot operate a name that you don't have on paper. For example, in Texas, a lot of people I know, I see it in their link in their bio, but I don't see it on the state secretary's website. In certain states like Texas, you are not allowed to advertise a business name that you have not filed with the county or with the state, okay? A lot of people don't know that. And so that's why it's important when you have a business that you take it seriously all the way down to the name. And when you choose a name, you want to make sure that that you validate that name at least in 5 different areas. I talked about that in a different live, how there's at least 5 different areas where you need to at least validate that business name to make sure that it's appropriate, that no one in the states have it, that no one on social media, on federal wise for trademarks. There's a lot of things that comes with the name. The name holds a lot of weight, and you want to make sure that the business name that you have for yourself is something that is for you, okay, that no one else has, okay? So I did talk about that in a different live, and again, that's in the live archive in my videos. And so another thing we talked about with the business structure is in regards to getting your LLC, making sure that everything matches. Hey Erica, making sure that everything matches, okay? When you get an EIN, I see this a lot with my tax clients. They'll have an LLC, but the EIN name is different. It's not the exact same name. It doesn't have the LLC on the end of it, or PLLC if you're a professional. You'd have to make sure all of that matches, okay? And you also want to make sure that you have the right business license for the business that you're in, making sure that you have any sales tax permits if you're supposed to have a sales tax permit. That's important these days because a lot of people have a lot of online courses now, and a lot of people don't know that if you have digital products, a digital download that you're selling, that you have to have a sales tax permit. And of course, if you sell physical products, then you definitely have to have one. But having a sales tax permit, I talked about all of that in the walkthrough of what you will get in my how to start your business from scratch course, how to validate your name, filling out the LLC from start to finish, getting your EIN, business license, sales tax, all of that, okay? So we talked a lot about that in June, all right? And then in July, this month, we talked a lot about managing your finances, not commingling your funds, okay? Not commingling your funds, that's important. Having a separate bank account for your business and for you personally. You don't want to commingle the two. That causes a mess when it comes to tax season, okay? You want to have as less stress as possible, all right? And another topic we talked about, I have my notes here because we talked about so much. I talked about how to turn your personal expenses into business deductions. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of things that you're doing personally, you can turn it into a business deduction. Let me give you an example of one of the things that I talked about this month. One of the things I talked about is how when you go to the store a lot, right? You drive to Target, you drive to Walmart, or whatever grocery store you go to a lot. There are things at Walmart, at Target, at the grocery store that you can buy for your business in order to turn that trip, that mileage that you are driving, you can, in order to use that as a business trip. So for example, if you know you need printer paper for your business, and you know you need to go to the store as well to get some other things personally. Okay, well, you can use that trip as a business trip to go to the store, take the mileage, use your business bank account to buy the printer paper or whatever else for your business, and then do a separate transaction for your personal. That is still a business trip that you took. Especially if you have a home office. If you're going from your home office to Target and back to your home office, that is a business trip, okay? I'll talk about logos, getting logos on your clothing, okay? For example, you can buy plain clothing. For example, I like to go to Ross a lot. You can buy plain clothing, plain shirts, and have your logo on it, okay? So instead of you buying clothes for yourself personally, you can use your business card and turn it into a business expense, okay? Like I said, clothing. Another thing we talked about, how to show proof of your income and expenses. I talked about Excel spreadsheets. I talked about bookkeeping software. I definitely talked about making sure you have your business account separate from your personal, okay? How to show proof. You want to make sure for certain things, the IRS requires you to have proof of. So for example, if you're taking mileage deduction, you have to have a mileage log. I like to use the app Stride, STRIDE. I'll drop it in the chat. I like to use Stride. It's free. There are a lot of other free apps out there that you can use. So you want to make sure you have a mileage app. If you are traveling for a business, like for example, I am going on a business trip. So I need to make sure that I have the receipts for the hotel stay, any meals. Meals is important. Whether if you're traveling or you just have regular business meals within your city, meals is something you definitely have to show proof of. The IRS requires you to have receipts, and if you don't have those receipts, then they could eliminate that deduction. And when you have that receipt, you want to make sure that you put the purpose of the meeting or the purpose of the meal on the receipt. You have to actually write that down. If anybody was there with you, you need to put that on there. Those are some of the things that you're required to have proof of, okay? And then with your income, you want to make sure that you're tracking your income appropriately. It's easy to track your income when you have one bank account just for the income, okay? So have a bank account just for the income, have a bank account just for the expenses, and it makes it so much easier because you don't have to filter through the different bank accounts to see what was the income and what was the expenses. You can have one bank account that has all the green, and by green I mean all the money coming in, and then have the bank account for the expenses with all the red coming out, all the negatives, everything that's being deducted, okay? So that's one way that you can keep your income, show proof of it, have that one bank account with everything every source of income that comes in there. If you have an Excel spreadsheet that's keeping track of that, you can do that as well. I like to use a bookkeeping software because it's so much easier to categorize everything, because when it comes to tax time, everything needs to have a category. Every expense needs to have a category. And then if you have sources of income, it's good for you to track it internally so you can know what areas that you're making more money in, okay? And let me see what else we talked about in July, because we talked about a lot. So we talked about, so with the business mileage, to go back to the business mileage, I did inform y'all that the IRS had increased the limit. So they increased the limit to 62 cents and 62.5 cents per mile, okay, which is a lot. I just took a trip to Houston, a business trip to Houston, and I spent $75 on gas. But the mileage deduction that I'm going to get for that, I believe it was like over $200. I got to do the calculation again. But basically do I drove about 400 miles, I believe. So if you do 400 miles times 62.5 cents, like that's well over $200. So I only spent $75, but I'm gonna get over 50% of a tax deduction for that. So that is amazing. That's why I said some of these trips that you're taking, whether it's to the store or whatever, you can turn it into a business trip, you know, so that you can accumulate that mileage, okay? And so you can have that for a tax deduction. A lot of people miss out on the mileage, especially for people who work from home. You think, oh, maybe you can't use that, but think about, like for me, I have a P.O. box. Think about all the times I go to the P.O. box in a month. All the times I go to the store in a month knowing that I need to buy something for my business and I don't. I can use the opportunity instead of maybe buying something online, just go, since I'm already going to the store already, I can add that mileage back because as you can see, you're getting more as a tax deduction than what you spent on gas, which is a win, okay? Let's see what else. Whenever you take your business trips, make sure that you have proof of you being there. Of course, you can have receipts, but definitely make sure you take like the agendas or a program that they have, just so you can kind of corroborate your story when it comes to showing proof of your expenses if you were to ever get audited. All right. So I think that's kind of wrapped that up on what we talked about for July. Again, in June we talked a lot about business startup. And then in July, we talked about bookkeeping, mostly showing proof of your income and expenses, how to write things off. And so for the month of August, we're going to talk a lot about taxes because the estimated tax payment is coming up for the third quarter. The third quarter, we're basically almost out of the third quarter. We have the month of August and then we're done. And then the payment is due September the 15th. I think that's a weekday. So yeah, you have to pay it on September the 15th. So in August, we'll talk a lot each week about taxes, preparing for it, estimated tax payment. So make sure you stay tuned to that. I will have a YouTube channel coming out in the month of August to kind of streamline this whole process of the Tax Tip Tuesday. I'll still go live over here on Facebook, but definitely click the link. If you go to Chastity Grady, click videos, and you'll be able to see all the videos that I have so far. So you can kind of go back and listen or watch each of the different topics that I talked about. If something interests you of what I already kind of gave you a general overview, you can hear about it more in detail in those videos. And if you are someone who needs a consult, you need to talk specifically about your tax situation, your business, your bookkeeping, and definitely schedule a consult with me. I do have it in the description. In my link tree, you can schedule a consult with me. And so that's all I have for today's Tax Tip Tuesday. We did a recap, and let me know if you're catching the replay. Click in the comments, write #replay so I know that you're tuning in. And I will see y'all in the next Tax Tip Tuesday.